Today we are talking about medical tourism. Today we are talking about fertility medical tourism. So let's discuss IVF medical tourism, whether it's here to stay. I welcome our esteemed panelists, and I'm very sure today's discussion is going to be a very fruitful one. So when we talk about medical tourism, the global growth in flow of patients and health professionals, as well as medical technology, capital funding, and regulatory regimes across national borders have given rise to a new pattern of consumption and production of health services over recent decades. A significant new element of growing trade in healthcare has involved the movement of patients across the border, which is defined as medical tourism. And now people not only travel for beach vacation, but they are also traveling for fertility. And today's global fertility tourism market is expected to grow at the rate of 30% over the next 7 years, and we'll come to the economics part of it a little later. Now, before I begin the panel discussion, I want to give a very quick view about why this discussion is important. Many of the IVF patients right now, they prefer to seek care from foreign countries for a number of reasons: prohibitions, restrictions, regulations, etc. And when we talk about that, currently the global fertility tourism market is valued at more than $500 million. And with this current rate, it is expected to reach more than $6 billion by 2030. And that's why, my friends, discussing India's role in terms of fertility tourism is so important. By the way, which country dominated the fertility tourism in 2020? It's Turkey, 42.2%. And they did not dominate because they had very easy regulations or there were no restrictions. They simply dominated because of their cost and success rate. Their costs were competitive and their success rate is as good as any other world-class center. And that brings us to what is our role in terms of fertility tourism in India, and is it here to stay? So let's begin the discussion. First, I want to ask Dr. Richa about what are her views about India emerging as a leader in terms of IVF treatment.
As Dr. Hinduja just detailed the detailed journey of IVF in India, I think the science has always been there. It's how well we have marketed our country as the right choice for medical treatment has been a question. But looking at how the economy has progressed and how image of our country has improved over the years, people know now that this is the right place for medical tourism, especially in IVF sector. One, because of the world-class knowledge and experience that our doctors have. Two, also very important because there's no language barriers. Everybody across the clinics is well-versed in English language, which is the universal language. Three, because the cost, as you pointed out, is maybe 1/3 of what is in their countries, in the Western countries and developed countries. And then the mystique of India, the thought that they are going to India, which is a charming place and where they can have other things as well, like they can have, of course, tourism, but the whole concept of Ayurveda, which has emancipated from India, how it can help them for stress relief, for yoga asanas. It's like a complete package, a holistic package, and that's the reason I feel India is poised at the right place at the right time to attract this medical tourism, especially in IVF sector.
Wow, so nicely put. Dr. Mugdha, what's your view about India's emerging role in terms of IVF treatment?
Okay, so today actually I'm very happy and honored as a reproductive immunologist to be invited in this fertility conclave. Our center, Dr. Raut Center for Reproductive Immunology, does not do IVF. But we do reproductive immunology, which definitely helps the IVF centers to increase their success rate of live births from the current worldwide 35 to 40% to almost 80%. And as a reproductive immunologist, what we have seen is that there is a huge inflow of patients coming not only from out of India, but we also have a lot of domestic tourism. So we, in Mumbai, yes, definitely, we have centers in Nagpur, Pune, and we are currently tied up with the Apollo group to start 5 more centers. So what we are seeing is that there is a huge inflow for our lymphocyte immunization therapy and other reproductive immunologists. This because it's 6 times the cost of what we are offering them. And ours is a single sitting patented process. So they have an advantage of single sitting. Abroad, they give it every 15 days for 6 months. And in terms of pounds, each sitting costs them 3,000 pounds. So for us, I think from the patient's point of view, they have an access to cost effectiveness, and they definitely have an access to laser, cutting-edge technologies and access to fertility specialists.
Yeah. So when we say about India, and it is trying to find its foothold in terms of fertility tourism, it is expected to touch around $3 billion by 2030. And yet we do not even represent more than 10% of entire fertility tourism market. And that's why we need to know exactly what all things we need to do in a correct context to emerge as a leading fertility tourism destination. So let me ask our panelists, what are your views about what are the key factors which are driving the fertility tourism market?
So like I told you, the key things that drive is one, cost. That's the first and foremost thing. Second is very good pregnancy rates now that we have in our country. And third is ease of travel, ease of getting their visa documents done. That's all very, very easy for people coming to India. On the other hand, the things that people are worried about, they're still worried about safety when they come to India. They're still worried about, in little measures, about hygiene. Not in the hospitals, but when they're staying in the hotels, in the guest rooms. That's what we can really up a game and improve on those factors. So if we can provide them with a holistic package where their travel is taken care of, their stay is taken care of, and their fertility treatment, of course, it's taken care of, I think we will be able to quell those doubts and queries in the mind of people who are coming here. And they will be able to embrace coming to India much more than anywhere else.
Yes.
Because of our strong points, as I earlier mentioned.
Also, what we need is perhaps the regulation in terms of how the fertility tourism is going to operate. For example, places like Turkey, there are established guidelines about when patient is going to visit the clinic, how many days after ovum pickup patient will stay, 5 days they will stay. Exactly for how many weeks, even if patient conceives, the Turkish doctors will monitor that pregnancy overseas. These are the guidelines which I feel make patients feel safe when they are coming for fertility treatments. So what are your views about in terms of developing specific guidelines for fertility tourism?
If we are developing guidelines, I feel it should be developed by fertility medicine specialists. Yeah. We are already reeling under guidelines and laws created by government which are not applicable and which are very difficult to apply everywhere. And but in some measures, the ART law has made sure that people feel safer about the zone that they're entering. They know that it's a well-regulated industry now, and that will help them to have more conviction about traveling to India. I'm not very sure how they will respond to the fact that we ask them to stay back for more than 5 days after an ovum pickup, 5 or 6 days after an ovum pickup to monitor. And pregnancy monitoring, most of the patients still prefer to do it back in their country where they have access to healthcare, where they have insurance to healthcare. And that's another point, Chinmay, that insurance for yes. fertility medicine is still not there in our country. If we could have some ways or means to offer these patients who are coming some form of medical insurance, can take care of it, it'll really make their lives much easier.
Much easier. So when we are saying that fertility tourism market is important, according to you, which is the age group which accounts for the largest share in that tourism market?
What we are seeing is, since we deal with a lot of failed IVFs, recurrent miscarriages, or recurrent pregnancy losses, we see a little older group in the fertility tourism market. where we get them, usually they are above 30, rather above 35. So, and I think because the Indian government doesn't allow fertility treatment beyond 50, it's about, we get from 35 to 50 is our range of patients.
That's correct. Internationally as well, the 35 to 42 is the age group which represents almost half of the fertility tourism market, and that's also the reason why they have got a good paying capacity for those treatments. Now, coming to the most important topic, while India was gearing up for this fertility tourism, COVID-19 struck, right? And according to you, how much COVID-19 has delayed the medical tourism in India as well as across the world?
See, because of the COVID-19 restrictions, movement was not like, and we were all a non-essential group. So we did face the brunt of it, but COVID-19 taught us a lot of things, and where we kept our communication lines open, and we did a lot of education on reproductive immunology. And as soon as the restrictions were opened up, we were able to bounce back. In fact, we were able to start 2 more centers and tie up with some of the leading fertility, with the Apollo group, and be starting in more 5 centers. But yes, I think COVID-19 did put the gap on domestic and international travel for us. When Indian government in this lockdown, we had to tell all our international patients to just stop coming. So that was a big challenge for us. But yes, they came back after the COVID, this lockdown was opened up.
Dr. Richa?
So COVID gave India, I mean, this is my take. COVID brought India in another light. We were able to manage the pandemic so well. We were the front runners in producing a vaccine in very adverse conditions. We were the ones who did not have a massacre happening in our country, which is what everybody anticipated, that India will have a massacre with its population and the kind of hygiene it has. And we were able to help other countries to help and access that vaccine, whereas we saw some developed countries having a vaccine politics and policies which were not really very inclusive. We went 2 steps ahead and we were able to manage it well. And that has brought us into a front-runner kind of a picture where now the world knows that if science is what it needs, India can do it. If management is what it takes, India can manage it. And that has put us in a very good position to be able to manage fertility medicine. And because now the tourism has opened up, we are seeing a big inflow of patients who are coming in now after those 2 years of lockdown. Everybody has realized that if they want to do something, they have to do it now. There may not be a tomorrow. And that has kind of put us in a positive frame of mind, I think.
Yeah, of course, after the second and in between third wave, the mindset actually changed vis-a-vis from the first to second. And that is what brings us to this report, which says that the market is not expected to return to its pre-pandemic level till 2024. This is mainly due to foreigners still, they are trying to avoid traveling. And majority of countries, they have continued their restrictions. Right now, that's not the situation apart from China. So the situation is opening up. But when we talk about the global market, it is still, in the phase of recovery. When we talk about India trying to be a leader, what we require for we to be leader is infrastructure. And what sort of infrastructure do you envision for India to have to be able to participate in that upcoming boom, which will be there for fertility tourism? Because as of now, things stand currently, we do not rank in between first top 5 destinations for IVF, right? So what sort of infrastructure are we talking about when we talk about, wanting to be in that upcoming boom?
I think what we need is a complete program which takes care of patients before they step into our country and handholds them till the time they go back after the treatment. And that includes their travel ease of documents, their stay in the city where they are traveling to, their medical treatment, of course, assistance to be provided locally by somebody who coordinates their entire stay and their treatment process, and their travel back, and some amount of hand-holding or kind of a tie-up with the medical practitioners in their country, so that when the patient goes back, they do not have to fend for themselves, and they can find an easier way to connect with their gynecologist back in their own country. So it will take a lot of effort from the government and from the private sector also to handholds together and then bring this kind of a comprehensive package for the patients who are wanting to travel.
Yes. I mean, imagine, and all of you imagine, when we talk about infrastructure, the most important strength we have is the human resources. A patient flying to Delhi wanting to start IVF treatment on the same day can have their first injection as a part of medical tourism, can have their first injection in New Delhi, second in Bombay, third in Bangalore, fourth in Chennai, fifth in any place in Kerala, again come back for rest 5 injections, and they can still land up in Delhi for that egg pickup. And we have the resources to make those injections available at all those places. We have a very good pharmacology industry where they can provide us injection across any part of the country, and we have chain of hospitals across the country which can help us. So when I'm talking about infrastructure, what I'm asking is there a requirement for tie-up of different states and different hospitals across the country to actually help the tourism part to grow as well? Because when we talk about tourism, medical tourism, the essence is, like Spain, patients should be able to have that essence of that mystic India. And if we need to have the network of hospital, network of gynecologists, doctors, who will actually be able to help that patient across that journey of tourism. So what are your views about it?
I absolutely agree with this. And I think with the corporatization and this professionalism which is coming in, I think definitely it is going to be, if we can do something like that, it will really, really help India in multiple ways.
Yes, and I don't think any other country can compete with us when we talk about human resources and making these jugards available right across from Jammu Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So that's very much possible. Now, here is the most important part, and that is ART bill. What are your views about impact of IVF regulations on medical tourism in India?
So ART bill and the regulations have definitely impacted quite severely the medical tourism. It's not an inclusive bill at all, so it has excluded out certain communities who cannot take treatment. It has also put a stop to surrogacy because it's, first of all, it's not allowed for foreigners in India, the surrogacy program, and plus the formation of national board, the formation of state board, the procuring of permissions from these government body has become very, very difficult. Without that, we are unable to give the patient a kind of framework of timelines to let them understand how much time will it take for them to have the treatment. There are so many patients who are unable to travel because they have no surety whether when they land, will they be able to access the treatment or not. So the only thing that will happen is if they were coming for self-IVF, well, that's easy. That's done very quickly. But even with the donor programs, because of the strong deficit of valid egg donors, it's impacting the treatment process completely. So the bill is definitely needed, the law is definitely needed, but it has to be looked at from all the angles and from making sure that we are inclusive so that we are not singling out some people and not offering them treatment, and make it such that we can offer them treatment in the framework of legalities, of medical correctness and ethical aspects.
Yes. Dr. Mugdha?
Yeah, I completely agree with Dr. Richa, but I think once there is more clarity on the ART bill, I think the things should improve a little, and it may add more credibility for international travelers about certain regulations being in place. But I think that is time to tell. We don't know which way we are going to go.
Now, when we talk about transparency, which is going to be paramount important in decade to come, when we all visit the monuments in our country, which is a part of our medical tourism, you will often see the tariff changes for Indian patients and the foreigners, right? So are we going to see a time when we will have the charges displayed on the outside in consulting for Indians and foreigners? Do you foresee that? As a part of tourism?
Medical tourism?
Yes.
Actually, we already tell the patients, because we do a lot of telephone consultations. I mean, we don't have to personally see the patients or examine. So the price difference is already told to them when they are consulting, and the reasons for the difference in the price consulting. So, I mean, we've not faced any challenges currently till now.
So I think all of us agree that India is right now, in terms of IVF treatment, we are second to none. In terms of manpower, in terms of doctors, skills, we are second to none. Yet we do not feature in top 5 of fertility tourism markets. And for that, what I feel is what we need is a lot more transparency, a lot more regulations, and a lot more logistical support to those patients. Once that happens, then going forward, it's not very difficult. And I think the decade which is going to come, we say that it belongs to India, not only in terms of other businesses, but also for fertility tourism. Let's hope it works for us. Thank you.
So as a last word, because I feel because all of fertility medicine is being in private sector, it's in each clinic, they are doing their own thing. If the government kind of takes up this task that we are going to market medical tourism as something that our country does and makes a standard pro forma or a format, I think that will convey to people more emphatically that yes, something is already designed, already in place and structured, and then they will not be so worried about it.
So I thank both of you for the wonderful discussion, and I thank for the audience for the patient listening.